Hi, my name is Sarah Gibson, and over the past couple of years I've been working towards my master's at Concordia University with a focus in reading. Over the course of this time, I've been able to create a professional portfolio of the work that I have done throughout my master's. In this portfolio, I have included artifacts that exemplify what I've been doing as a teacher. Over the past couple of years, I've been working as a substitute teacher in the Centennial School District. I was also able to teach for 1 year at a private kindergarten at a daycare. Okay, so now I'm going to go over the different parts of my portfolio that I've created. There are 10 competencies that I have created objectives for, and within each of those competencies I have 2 artifacts that exemplify the work that I've done in my teaching settings. So the first competency that I have is the objective is assess the student's knowledge and skills of the content being taught and confirm they are making progress. So over the course of my master's, I've learned a lot about assessment and what I need to do to help my students succeed through giving them assessments. And so the artifacts that I've chosen that exemplified the work that I've done, the first artifact is a reading and writing assessment toolkit that I created in the class Diagnosis and Assessment of Reading. What we had to do in the assessment toolkit is include different assessments that we thought would be valuable to our teaching in the future. And so I have about 10 or 12 different assessments for reading and as well as for writing. And so I included in the portfolio a couple examples from my toolkit because my toolkit was so big that I couldn't include the entire toolkit, but I included a couple different assessments that I felt were good assessments that could be used in there. The other article that I included in this competency is the Dibbles assessment critique, and what I had to do for this assignment was critique an assessment that a reading assessment. So what I did first is I researched a lot of different reading assessments that were out there and chose one that I would like to critique. And so I was able to look over the Dibbles assessment and really find out whether it was a good assessment or not. And this really opened my eyes to a lot of the different reading assessments that were out there and how to tell whether I'm using a good reading assessment or not. In the second competency of my portfolio, the objective for this competency is use knowledge about students' strengths to develop lesson plans that are consistent with content goals and district standards. So the 2 artifacts that I chose to add to this portfolio were a paper that I wrote about the Common Core state standards. And this paper basically explains how I will use the Common Core state standards in my curriculum, and being able to write this paper helped me to learn a lot about the Common Core and how to teach the standards in my classroom. The second artifact that I included was 2 assignments that I did in my advanced techniques for teaching reading class. The assignments that I did were a PowerPoint presentation about the components of the Daily 5, which is a book written by Joan Moser and Gail Boucher. I also had to do reading reflections around the book as I was reading. This book, I was able to incorporate a lot of the components of the Daily 5 into my classroom and do a lot of the literacy centers, and it was a great benefit to my classroom and my students. In the third competency of my portfolio, the objective is organize the classroom into a place that strives for a positive work environment with efficient use of time and materials as well as effective transitions. The artifacts that I've included in this part of the portfolio are a paper that I wrote about classroom environment, as well as a PowerPoint presentation I created about a literature study that I made. In my paper that I wrote about classroom environment, I explained how I would like my classroom to be like a community of learners where everyone is working together as a team. Prior to writing this paper, I was able to research a lot of different theories about how the classroom environment should be conducive to learning in the classroom. And through that experience, I've learned a lot about how I would like my classroom to be for my students. The second artifact that I've included in this competency is a PowerPoint presentation that I created about a literature study I would like to do. The literature study is about the book Chrysanthemum by Kevin Hinkes and teaches students about how to be respectful towards others in the classroom. I had the opportunity to teach a lesson like this in my kindergarten class, and it went very well. I believe that teaching character education in the classroom is very important and is part of helping students to be successful in the classroom. In the fourth competency of my portfolio, the objective is apply the instructional plans that were created through knowledge of subject matter and students' backgrounds and differences, as well as promote parent involvement. The artifacts that I included in this section of my portfolio are a reading strategy notebook that I created and a unit plan that I created about friendship. The reading strategy notebook includes different reading strategies and how to implement them in my classroom. There are many different techniques throughout the notebook that show how to teach each of the different reading strategies. So in my portfolio, I have included one of the reading strategies and all of the techniques for that strategy, as well as my table of contents and rationale for that notebook. Within this notebook, I was able to learn about how to teach the different reading strategies in my classroom, which was very valuable for me. The second artifact that I included in this competency is a unit plan that I created about friendship. I created this plan during the course Community of Learners, and throughout this course I was able to learn about how to teach students with different learning styles and different backgrounds. What I learned from this course helped me to create this unit plan and use different strategies within that I learned from the course within my unit plan about friendship. In the fifth competency of my portfolio, the objective is provide assistance to students and families by collaborating with other teachers and members of the community in support of the students. For this competency, I included two artifacts. The first artifact that I included was a reading intervention critique that I did. The reading intervention that I looked at was the Scots-Foresman reading intervention. Prior to critiquing a reading intervention, I looked at many different interventions to see which one I wanted to critique. This really opened my eyes to the amount of interventions that are available for teachers. The intervention that I chose to critique was focused on younger students of pre-K to kindergarten. I found this intervention useful to my teaching because I know that in the future I'm going to need to have an intervention for students that are struggling or are behind in their reading, and this intervention critique will help me in that area. The second artifact that I include in this competency is a sensory development brochure that I created for parents. The idea was to help parents understand the sensory development that their children need to go through, and was focused on parents with kids who are in kindergarten or younger. Creating this brochure helped me to see how to research what assistances there are for parents and how I can better share information with parents and families. In the sixth competency of my portfolio, the objective is evaluate each student's progress by enhancing instructional plans and develop other goals or environments for learning when needed. The artifacts that I am including in this competency are the reading practicum that I had to do for my master's, as well as an interactive journal that I created. The first artifact of the reading practicum, I had to do 30 contact hours of teaching for one part of it. And with this, I was able to create a couple of different reading lessons that I taught in front of my supervisor. She was able to observe me teach these different lessons and then provide feedback for me on what I could do better next time. I was able to set goals for myself as a teacher and what I could improve on, as well as look at what students were doing and how they were learning and change my lessons to fit their needs. The second artifact that I included is an interactive journal that I created. The interactive journal that I did was created in my advanced techniques for teaching reading class. Throughout the course, we were able to learn a lot of different techniques for interacting and communicating with students. So I got a lot of different great ideas for interacting with my students in my own classroom. The seventh competency of my portfolio includes the objective: document and report the progress made by students in literacy in order to achieve content goals and district standards. The two artifacts that I included in this competency were a reading case study that I did, and then the presentation of the reading case study to my classmates. The reading case study included assessments that I did on a student. They were reading and writing assessments, and the reading assessments that I used were the developmental reading assessment. And then I also did a writing assessment on the student. After using the assessments that I had, I was able to set goals with not with the student, but for the student about what they could do better in their reading and writing. I then was able to present this information to the students in my class as if they were the parents of the student I did the case study on. This was very beneficial for me because I was able to learn how to talk to parents and present information from an assessment to them. In the eighth competency of my portfolio, the objective is find current research about teaching, learning, and school improvement and utilize the information to improve my teaching strategies. The first artifact that I am including in this competency is a reflective paper that I wrote about motivating students. The objective that it talks about for this competency is finding current research about teaching and using it in your classroom. So I found a lot of different articles about motivation and was able to learn a lot from them. I then wrote a paper about how you can motivate students to read. The paper that I wrote explains how important it is to motivate students to read. If a student is motivated to read, then they'll be more apt to want to learn, which is my goal for my classroom. The second artifact that I included in my portfolio is a PowerPoint presentation about 10 issues in education. For this presentation, I had to come up with 10 different issues that are currently happening in education and choose one of them to discuss more in depth. The topic that I chose to discuss was early childhood education. I talked about its major challenges, major risks or threats, major benefits, as well as some of the drawbacks of it. After learning about the issues that are happening in this world around education, I now know that I can research them in depth and find ways to help solve those issues in my classroom. In the ninth competency, the objective is take part in helping to improve opportunities for teaching and learning at my school. Through this competency, I was able to come up with two artifacts that I can include. The first artifact that I have is my action research project that I did. The action research project that I completed was I researched a summer reading program at a school in Oregon. I was able to research the program by looking at how effective the program was based on articles that I had previously read. I learned a lot from this experience because I was able to figure out what worked and what didn't in their program so that someday in the future, if I ever wanted to create a program of my own, it would be easy. The second artifact that I included in this competency is the school-wide literacy portfolio. In this portfolio, I was able to look at a school's literacy plan. I was able to look at their goals and objectives, their assessment plan, their instructional programs and materials, their instructional time, as well as their differentiated instruction, administration, organization, and professional development. I was able to provide suggestions for improvement within this, as well as celebrations that happen throughout their program. this project, being able to create this portfolio was so beneficial to me because I was able to look at a literacy plan that a school has in place and see what worked and what didn't. And that will help me in the future if I ever choose to work towards creating a program like this. The last competency of my portfolio has the objective: work as a team with other teachers to help improve our performance as educators. The two artifacts that I included in this competency are a final project that I did in one of my courses where I observed different teachers and took notes and was able to work with them to reflect on their teaching. And the second artifact that I chose is called Teacher Observation Notes, and it is an assignment that I did in another course where I observed a teacher as well and was able to take notes on her teaching and give her feedback. So both of these assignments kind of go hand in hand, but I was able to focus on different aspects of the teacher's teaching and decide what I thought her strengths were and her weaknesses, and was able to work with her to determine how we could better her teaching. Through these experiences, I was able to think about what I do as a teacher and was able to reflect on my own teaching based on the feedback that I was giving the other teacher. So this was a great learning experience for me, being able to do these two assignments. In conclusion, I feel that creating this portfolio and working through my master's courses and these assignments that I've done, I have learned so much from these experiences. I believe that I will be able to use everything that I have learned in my future classroom.